So, welcome to the 14 News podcast and, of course, the Confession of the Ghost Boy channel. I'd like to welcome my guests from the Two Guys What's Up podcast. Welcome, guys. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
Half knackered. John, how are you?
I'm fine. I'll
Sweet.
make up for Ian.
That's
Okay.
usually how it goes.
Wonderful. So, thank you so much for coming. I know, Ian, you've just come off a really long shift.
Yep.
So, have you got any alcohol with you? Because I was interviewing you, I've got a single 19-year-old single malt Islay Scotch.
I was going to bring some alcohol, but I'm driving myself. So unfortunately, I can't drink any. I'm planning on having quite a lot when I get back home.
Fantastic.
I'll catch up. Just
Yep.
send me how much you've had, and I'll make sure to stick that in one pint when I get home.
You'll probably need it after this, to be honest.
I kind of feel like it already. No.
You've just had a little vanilla latte.
I have, yeah.
So-
Very posh. Nice vanilla
Wild.
latte. Yeah.
Wild stuff,
Mental.
yeah.
Rock and roll. These podcasters.
So just before we start, I know, Jordan, you've had a quite extreme paranormal experience recently, haven't you? So when I say paranormal, like something completely unexplicable that, that science can't explain, logic or anything. So you went to see Taylor Swift.
I was going to say,
I was wondering where that was going. Yeah, I did along with 70-odd thousand other people.
Yeah. And what was that like?
Bonkers. Well, I sent a picture to Ian, actually, a couple, and one included these wristbands that we had to wear upon entry. And I said, these are the mind control devices that light up and everything.
You've been catalogued.
Yeah. It was, hey, I'm not the biggest fan in the world, but for what it's worth, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good, to be fair.
What's it like to be in a place where there's kind of that many people for one thing, and kind of what sort of feelings does it generate? Is it near kind of like a religious experience in some ways?
It's a good question. I think possibly it felt a bit cultish.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a really horrible way, but it felt very much like, I'll give you an example. Taylor Swift was playing a song on her piano, just her and a vocal. And after she did that, for whatever reason, the whole audience just sort of went mad. So she'd finished and, they gave her the applause and everything. But then it just carried on and people were sort of like stomping, and it must have been 90 seconds. And even Taylor Swift was like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
Right, press the button on the wristbands, please. Get them under control.
Self-destruct.
So I'm used to my music taste is a bit more kind of like, I suppose, underground, you'd call it. And
Okay.
but I took my daughter to see Billie Eilish, and that was like the same. It's like she moved and everyone screamed and clapped, and I'm like, what's going on?
I mean, hey, good on Taylor Swift for getting where she has.
Yeah.
Is all I can say. I can take the mick as much as I like, but she's doing all right for herself.
Yeah.
More than I ever will.
Definitely. Well, one band that supported us back in the day went on to play Wembley, and we split up. So I'm not the best judge. So do you know what I mean?
Who was it? If you don't
Bring Me
mind
the
asking.
Horizon.
Really?
Yeah, and we almost ended up in a fist fight. It's like, so yeah, we won't go into that one. I might be a bit libelous.
I was going to say, I know this was an interview for us, but I'm quite intrigued about your story now.
We'll talk off air. Let's go right to the very start. So where were kind of both of you kind of born originally, and how have you ended up in Scarborough? Are you both from Scarborough?
I was born in Scotland originally. I lived there until I was about 5 years old. Then I moved to Germany.
When they lynched you out.
Yeah, they were like, we're sick of you and your face, get out. So I moved to Germany. They got sick of me and moved back to Scotland. They were like, you again, please leave. So I went to Italy, then, no, vice versa, Italy, England, Scotland, Germany. Sorry, long shift. Then my dad's job took us to Scarborough, where he retired. He used to come here as a child. So he moved us here when I was about 12, 13 years old. And that's where I've been ever since.
Fantastic.
Myself, not quite as exciting, really. I was born in Leeds and then eventually moved to Bridlington and lived there for well over 10 years, and then finally ended up in Scarborough. So not quite as extravagant, but less carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So none of us
Environmentally
are
friendly.
none of us are Scarboroughians. So that's interesting.
No, where is it you're
Um,
from? Sorry.
Well, I'm from Hammersmith originally in London,
You
and
did
then
say yes.
yeah, Coventry, and then um, like Ian said, we used to kind of come on holiday here, and then ended up settling.
Nice.
It's such a beautiful place.
It is. It really
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and kind of you both obviously formed a friendship, and what went from kind of like forming that friendship to where you are now, which is doing this podcast that's kind of blending humor and things of everything under the banner of high strangeness. Kind of what led from that initial interest to then the conversations around what you're doing now.
Well, I've always been interested in the paranormal, even before I knew about it. And I've always been interested. I mean, like War of the Worlds is one of my biggest loves, and I think that maybe got me set on the road to aliens. I've always been interested in aliens. Whenever I meet new people, one of the first thing, when I finally get a bit comfortable with them, one of the first things I say to them is, "Got any ghost stories? You ever seen a ghost? You ever seen anything creepy? What's the weirdest thing that's happened to you?" So I've always been interested in it. And then Jordan and I met about 11 years ago, 12 years ago.
Yeah,
At music
it was
college.
at college, yeah.
Yeah, and he showed me a card trick, and I instantly fell for him. And we became friends, and we kind of stopped talking for not like we didn't have a tiff or anything.
Yeah.
I went to university, you stayed here, and
Yeah.
we just kind of went our own separate ways. And then when I came back, we'd see each other as much as we could, and as and when wherever. And I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I always kind of thought I always wanted to be able to put myself in a position where I could tell spooky stories and add my own sort of twist on it, and talk about things that I wanted to. And I wanted to start a podcast, and I said to someone, I was like, you know what, we should start a podcast. And they said no, and I said, okay, I'll move on to the next person. So then I met someone else, and they were like, no thanks. I was like, okay. So I went through that a few more times, and then I finally found Jordan, and I was like, oh, last contact in the phone book. Hey mate, do you want to start a podcast? And he said yes, and I was like, oh shit. Oh no. So yeah, we just we wanted to just sort of be able to just have a laugh. It's a way for us to get together, see each other more often, and just essentially just have a laugh like we do normally, except tell each other creepy stories and cool things that we both find interesting.
Absolutely. And I have really fond memories of sort of the few years after college when it was kind of like
gone.
Well, no, it was before you left, and it was kind of the, I don't know, gap year. I don't know if you even want to call it that, before uni, where we'd see each other all the time. I was still living in Bridlington at the time, so if we were to go out and have some drinks and so on, I would very often stay over at yours because I couldn't really get back. And so I've got real fond memories of being in Ian's parents' house in the graveyard, and if anyone knows about that. And it's I've got really fond memories of all of that, and it formative years, I guess you would say.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
And I remember as well, just about a touch on the podcast side, I remember not being massively keen on the idea.
Oh really?
Do you remember? Like you said the idea you did, yeah. Ian mentioned it a whole a couple of times, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it'd be fun, but logistically I was thinking, how are we going to make it work, and how are we going to get the content for that? And I'm a bit of an overthinker. Yeah,
that was always a bigger fear, but I guess you're never going to get anything if you don't take that first step and just try it.
Absolutely.
And obviously it worked out, because now we're world famous.
There's a really lovely organic I think the thing that there's obviously a lot of work that goes into your podcast and a lot of research, but there's this thing that you can't write and prepare, which is that lovely relationship you both have where you're bouncing off each other, making each other laugh, and that really kind of comes through. And it's interesting that you said kind of like
we hate each other.
that comes maybe. It does feel like you're meeting up with a friend and having a drink and just listening to stories, and that really kind of comes across.
Well, that's really nice.
Yeah, we've had a few people describe us as like sort of just going out.
Annoying.
Yeah.
Loud.
That's just you, mate.
Interrupting.
We had a few people say that we kind of sound like just getting together with a few mates at the pub, and just someone just being like, "Oh, I've just got this crazy story to tell you," and you know, like just having that sort of back and forth and having a laugh with it, and that's definitely comes in with the alcohol.
Yeah, which
Definitely a pub setting.
I think has probably ramped up significantly since that. hasn't it?
No, I don't have a problem. Sure.
Not at all.
So, so you both kind of got into this. Was it films first rather than experiences that got you into kind of high strangeness?
The first time I heard about high strangeness was on a podcast that I started listening to about 10 years ago, and it just intrigued me so much because at first when I heard the what's it called, the word, you know, so what's it called? When I heard the term, thanks,
Yeah.
John.
You're welcome. I did that.
I was like, what is that? What's high strangeness? You know, I just heard the word strange and I thought high strangeness sounds amazing. So I'd Google it and it wouldn't really come up with anything.
You thought someone was called Strangeness, didn't you?
Yeah, and he was always just constantly high. So I'd look, you know, online trying to find out what it was, and then I finally discovered that it's not really like a term that is like attributed to something. It's just like, you know, an umbrella sort of term that just describes like weird events. You know, like you hear about a ghost story, and then all of a sudden there'll be a Bigfoot throwing stones at you, and you know those two things are just like, oh, that's a bit of high strangeness, and it just got me super interested in just trying to like look at those stories, like the most craziest stories you can ever think of, and the most weirdest things that you just never hear about anywhere.
Which is kind of weird as well, because I'm very much the opposite. I mean, I've always been interested in paranormal, and I've always kind of, I guess it's been less literature and more documentaries or films, or even, you know, way back when I used to really enjoy Most Haunted, you know, like when I was a kid, I thought, oh, this is great. And it really got me interested in it. But because I don't really, or I haven't really looked into it in a very deep sense, when Ian introduces these stories in our podcast, most of the time I haven't even heard of them.
Which is what I love.
Which is really good for me as well. So it's quite nice that I learn along the way.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh.
When you speak.
When I can speak, yeah.
I've got a story about Most Haunted, but again, it's one for off air.
Okay,
I don't want to be sued. But yeah.
Say allegedly.
It's when they were in York, but it's a great story. I'm intrigued how people often come to the paranormal, and I think, as I've spoken before, there's a lot of neurodiversity, but also like very much the creative people, like artists, and obviously you're in a music studio now, and you both have a musical background, and I think it is that creative aspect of people searching for answers in something that you can't actually come up with a conclusion for.
Yes.
Very good. Yeah, I've never made that conclusion, but yeah, that does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that creative aspect is quite important?
There seems to be more people that are willing to question things. Musicians, artists, willing to question what is a set standard of, you know, these are the rules, and we are rule breakers. And paranormal shatters reality, doesn't it? You know, anything with high strangeness, there is a reality that you subscribe to, and it breaks that. So it takes a certain type of person to have that initial acceptance and then explore that, rather than just to kind of deny it. I imagine many people have these experiences and just go, yeah, but it must have been that, and completely lock it away. And that's the end of the conversation, because you know, if we don't take it from that fortune aspect, we look at it completely either scientific or from a religious aspect. Religion says these are the set rules, and science says it's impossible, so therefore it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And then that's what most people kind of ascribe their belief system upon. And I believe it takes a certain person to disassociate from that and have this acceptance and willingness to explore things that aren't that, you know, the same as taking some colors or sounds and turn it into a painting or music. There was a question there somewhere.
So I'm special, is that what you're trying to say?
We're all special.
Very much.
I can finally let my parents know that I haven't amounted to something.
Add it TCB.
Yeah, even if I can't show them a bit of paper and be like, look, see.
just get that audio clip.
Yeah, I'll send them that. Thank you. You've given me something to
when,
look for. Sorry, Karen.
When you we're coming up with the concept of the podcast. Obviously,
Mhm.
that exploring that, but also just kind of like humor and other kind of funny things off the internet. Was that something that kind of occurred naturally because of your repertoire with each other, or is that something you actually designed?
To be honest, it kind of changed, didn't it, from the original uh base sort of thing that we wanted it to be about.
Yeah, the concept.
That's
yeah.
the one. Thank you. I'm glad you're here.
Yeah.
When we first got together, people who listen to our bonus episodes will know this because we went through it a little bit. But when we first started, and it was a concept, we were going to be called Shared Interests. That was the plan. That was the idea, because we're both interested in three things, which is the paranormal, music, and magic. So it was going to be a podcast which spoke about one of those three options. And I knew I always wanted to talk about paranormal, and Jordan is a better musician and a far better magician than I am. So I was kind of going to leave those up to him, and we were just going to come together and talk about those sorts of things. And then just over time, it's just kind of morphed into what it is today. And I proposed we call ourselves Shared Interests, and then Jordan was like, "Yeah, great, that sounds good, pal. Yeah, nice one." And then I was like, "Actually, it doesn't really roll off the tongue." He was like, "Thank God." Oh, mate, I didn't want to say anything, but yeah, that's rubbish. So, and then there's a name of a disgusting video that we based
Oh.
our name on.
Yeah.
Do you know it, or can you work it out? I don't
Something to
really
do
want
with a
to.
cup and some girls.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it changed to that, and we were like, "Hey, that's a lot better. It's funny, and it sounds a lot better." Although I've always found that whenever you have a podcast, it can always be abbreviated really well, like COAGB, but Tugwa doesn't really work. So I think we're probably just destined to fail.
That's very true.
Yeah, I think that is the
There's
key
always more
point.
syllables in saying
Yeah,
TGW.
yeah, and that doesn't work either. But yeah, that was the original concept, and we are still trying to bring music and magic into it. I mean, we've got some
Yeah.
music, and we do like stupid challenges occasionally and stuff like that. But the magic side is always a lot harder. It's so
Absolutely.
niche as well.
Yeah. That is the difficulty. I mean, I've been really lucky enough to, not so much in the past 10 years, but the sort of 10 years prior to that, I've traveled the world. Literally, I've been to conventions because they exist. So you have 2,000-3,000 people gathering in this in this building. It sounds so sad when you say it out loud.
Which is why
which is why. And and it's just everybody that's really interested in when I say magic, it's like, conjuring illusions, tricks, and that kind of thing. And it's just great fun, and it's such a good atmosphere. And I would say anyone that even isn't an active magician but just has an interest in it,
Oh, man,
try and go to
we'll have a field day.
go to a convention. You'll walk 10 feet and someone will show you something and you'll be like, that's amazing.
Generally a card trick.
Yeah, I would hope so. And or coins. And it's amazing. So I have that background. I've met Darren Brown and David Blaine, and you name it. I've probably met them and
worked for them.
And I've been really lucky to do that and feel very fortunate. But it's a very niche thing, and know that not everybody is interested in that. Whereas music and paranormal is a bit more of a broad kind of topic, as it were, and very popular, obviously. So it's a little harder to introduce the magic.
Yeah.
Not to say it won't happen.
Yeah.
But it is more difficult, especially in an audio format.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. What are you gonna say?
Yeah.
Pick a cardigan. Was it the 8 of spades?
Whoa!
No.
You got it.
I've been trying that in my relationship in the bedroom to introduce the magic, and it's not happening either. It's,
oh mate, I was going to ask you for some tips. I thought, oh, he's cracked it. No.
That's all I've got is the tip. But so it's interesting that you kind of cover the paranormal, because magicians are normally the skeptical kind of side. Like, magicians are often their whole kind of they're called magicians, but they're the opposite, aren't they? They are anti-magic in a way. They're tricks, and then they will try and debunk the paranormal, which is fine, and it's great. Part of my team, until he had a paranormal experience himself, what was to be the debunker and have that, to
Right.
really be like a hardcore skeptic.
So
and
he
a
was off the
disbeliever.
team.
Yeah, that's it. He's done. So where do you kind of fit within that?
I would say I'm certainly more skeptical, I think, but I've had next to no experiences myself. So had I had that, that's probably going to be very different. A bit like what you just said. It's not to say anyone listening, I don't necessarily want that.
Oh yeah, sign of a true skeptic.
Just covering all bases. I like to sit firmly on the fence, and yeah, I would say I'm more skeptical than you. Not as in I would shoot down every single idea. I'm very open-minded.
Open-minded skeptic, yeah. There's two types of people. You can either, well, three. You can either fall, just fall into everything exists, aliens are real, ghosts are this, and just completely not think about it any other way, or you can be like, no, none of it's real at all. Or you can be like, I'm open to it, I'm happy to explore, and if I see some proof, then I will change my understanding, which is fine.
Absolutely. I think that's the way anyone should be. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, sometimes I find some of the skeptics so ridiculous that it's even more unbelievable than the actual paranormal experience itself. They try and debunk something with something that the chances are 20 billion to 1 of that happening altogether in sequential. That it's then beyond the realms of reality, but they try and ascribe that idea to numerous cases that it just doesn't make sense.
Each individual part of what they come up with could be possible. For them to fall into one continuous sort of line would just be astronomically impossible.
Yeah, and then for it to continually happen in different environments and everything and then it just becomes more insane than saying that someone's telekinetically moving something or the dead are, the probably mathematical equations are even probably less for that. So yeah, it's always interesting. Do you believe magic exists in a real magic then, both of you?
I think it possibly could do in some sense of the word. I don't think it's probably as is shown to us, like people pulling bunnies out of hats and stuff like that. I've never really thought about it, to be honest. But I think if it did exist, it wouldn't look anything like we sort of understand it to. Like people doing card tricks and all of a sudden the card's in the back pocket when they haven't touched the back pocket kind of thing.
Although it would make it a lot easier to do that trick.
That would make it a lot easier. Maybe in the sense of like intuition, or is it what's the word? Like when you like sort of really want something to happen.
Manifest, or
like that kind of thing. Like if you maybe sort of thinking you're putting all your energy into like one thing, you can maybe sort of sway things to happen more in that direction. But I don't think it's like click your fingers, teleport to the moon.
I do think there's some truth actually to that, though.
Yeah,
that I'll kind of to an extent.
Yeah,
I'll I'm not going to say what I was going to say. It's a family show. I think there's a lot of truth to that, and also to go back to your question, James. When you say, do you think magic is real? Just to ask, in what way are you describing magic? Or
I suppose. I mean, as I said to you before we start rolling, I was going on I went to see a witchcraft exhibition today, and I'm going to interview the person doing that. So if anyone got any questions, send them in before then. And witchcraft in itself is interesting because we had witchcraft and all these trials, but everything to do with witchcraft is in opposition to this misogynistic idea of a witch that didn't actually exist. So witches in a reality didn't exist until recently, when people started kind of reclaiming it, particularly women, and saying they are a witch, and then using that as a powerful thing. But then we look at certain things particularly in Eastern philosophy, such as like the idea of the tulpa. So I suppose to me is the idea of magic in terms of it being something that is created by human wish or thinking, either individually or as a group, to then create it in a reality. That would be my definition of magic.
Yeah. So it's similar sort of vein of what I was thinking, I think.
Yeah. In that case, I think there's probably an element of that is true. And even if you don't think of that in any kind of I don't know, spiritual or far out there idea. I think if you really want something and you work towards that, it's probably more likely to happen than if you just didn't bother.
It's kind of like the I hope anyway. I mean, I'm tired, so it couldn't be. But like the nocebo effect. So like if you think to yourself, like if someone gives you a pill, which is just a sugar pill, and tells you this will make you sick, and you take it, and you start to tell yourself you're sick, and then you start to actually have physical things showing that you are actually sick, and then someone will say to you that was actually a sugar pill, and then all of a sudden it'll all be alleviated. So it's kind of like the power of the mind can have these sort of things over you, and can possibly have things manifest, like you say, tulpas, and just like sway actual reality and move it.
Absolutely. And just apologize, by the way, because if you hear me coughing occasionally, it's fallen really well, because like 2 days ago I had no voice. I just couldn't speak. And
Our fans were happy.
Yeah, absolutely. We ended up actually moving a recording date because I was like, I can't speak. And I sent Ian a voice clip and he was like, why?
I can hear a difference.
So yeah, so apologies if I need to clear my throat.
Was that wishful thinking that you got your voice back though? Did you manifest that?
Possibly so.
Beautiful.
Magic is real. There we go. Confirmed.
I was listening to your last show about the different food places and certain things. I'm just going to move my cat because she keeps interfering.
Oh,
You keep seeing a tail swishing across my face. Yeah, there's certain things of the food. I just wanted to tell you one that definitely wasn't me, because I don't want to be sued again. But place where someone I know used to work used to provide meat for the a baker's that no longer exists, but was well known in this area. And inexplicably, one of the guys stuck his finger in where the mincing machine was to unblock it. He lost the tip of his finger.
Oh no, I think I know where this is going.
It went into the vat, and we tried to we didn't know, it wasn't me, tried to find it, and it was a big vat, and they couldn't find it, and it was too much to throw out. So Bean, sorry, very professional, my dog. So yeah,
it was in the past a bean.
it went into someone's steak pie. Yeah,
it's just a bean. Oh, don't worry about it. Okay, right. All the hope that you had of putting people off takeaways in your episode, I was like, I could probably look past that, but cannibalism. I think that's
no, allegedly, possibly.
No, it happened.
We don't
it
know.
just wasn't.
It wasn't me. Allegedly, no one complained, so they obviously, just
they thought
enjoyed
it was
it.
delicious.
They get really good reviews for a little while.
Get another one of those pasties. It's just not the same this time.
Why is there a bit of pork in my steak pie?
All of a sudden they'll be cutting chunks off this guy's finger.
Oh,
obviously made it good. Add some more.
Oh, imagine the bit of gristly nail.
Oh, mate. Oh, chewy bit. Nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Betwixt the teeth.
Get it out at the end.
How do you come up with the concepts then each week? How do you come up with what you're actually going to talk about?
I have a plan of a list of ideas that I want to talk about, and generally that gets pushed aside. And I'll just come across something. I'll go, that's interesting, and the inspiration will strike enough for me to be able to write an episode on it, and that is just generally what I'll talk about. And usually it gets to the point of like the night before, and I'll finish writing it and then forget to read through it, which causes great disdain for Jordan the next day when I'm trying to read through it, and it's horrible. There is a little, I don't know if anyone knows this, there is a little sort of post-credit bit at the end of our music, at the end of our episodes, and there's always like a little bit, and the end of the last week's one, so episode 76,
yes,
was just a massive compilation of me messing up. So I don't know if anyone's heard
it's
that.
about 2 minutes long, isn't it?
It is about 2 minutes long, yeah.
Little
It's
splice clips.
It's normally like a little 30-second or 10-second little funny bit, but yeah, this is 2 minutes of me just messing up and just being like, I'm sorry, mate. I'm so sorry. But yeah, that's where my inspiration comes from. It's just whatever pushes itself into my brain the night before.
Absolutely. I have on my phone, in my notes app, a whole bunch of topic ideas of just kind of silly things. And, I might be walking my dog and I'll think, I'll just something will strike me and I'll think, weird food reviews or something. And I'll just make a little note, and then I'll find something that I think takes my fancy that week, and I'll I'll look into it. And unfortunately, there have been a few times where a topic hasn't kind of come about yet because I'm not happy with what I have found and didn't really feel like it was just, good enough really, without it feeling too much filler. But yeah, that's I couldn't tell you where the ideas are from. They just happen.
That was going to be my next question. Have you ever kind of come up with something and when you've actually tried it just hasn't worked?
I mean, there is an idea that I think I've shared it with you actually, and it's
Probably not. I'm always the last to know.
it's about what's it called now? Sort of like the topic of cold reading and what's the name? It's the Barnum statements. That's it. And there's this big it's like a 4-page write-up full of Barnum statements, and it was in a Derren Brown book. And just to give you a bit of context for how he used that, he did it in one of his TV shows where he got a group of people that had never met, and he said that he could sort of read into them if they give him an object of theirs and a little write-up about them, like a little 5 questionnaire answer thing, and then he goes off, spends about 2 hours, comes back, gives everyone's kind of separated in the room, gives them their paper, and says, go off and read it, and then give it a score out of 10, what you thought. And and so basically all of them are saying like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, so meaningful. And then he says, put them all in the envelopes again and mix them between all 5 of you and see if you can work out whose person you're reading. And they realize they've all got the same one. And it's just showing how, all these things, astrology and so on could be Barnum statements. And so I wanted to do a bit on that, but it was just a case of how do I make that interesting that's not just reading loads of Barnum statements. So I'm still
get
working
someone in and do a reading on them.
I could.
I would pay to see that.
Would you?
Yeah. Not you.
Well, okay, yeah.
Maybe Derren Brown if he did it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's an idea that I'd love to do, but I haven't worked out a way.
Yeah, the medium thing, we touched on it when you guys interviewed me with most people. I think the 3 categories, as I said to you, there's those that are just cold readers and really good at it, which is a great skill. And kind of doing the work that I do, you have to have some of that ability anyway. There are those that are just mad and think they have these special powers. And then there's there are some people, and they're the rare ones, that are just absolutely incredible. And I'll just give you an example. I don't know why this isn't a question, but one example, this guy got in touch with me, and he lives in Wales, and he was doing readings, and he said, can I give you a reading and you give me a review? I'm very skeptical normally of most mediums on the whole. And so I was like, okay. But I said, on the condition that I'm really honest. Like if you, if I'm find out that it isn't, I will give you a poor review, but that's the agreement. And he was like, that's absolutely fine. Anyway, he didn't know me. He'd listened obviously to my show and stuff, and that's why he asked me to do it, but he didn't know who I was and much about me. And I'd bought these new shoes basically this week, and it occurred, and they immediately kind of came apart. And it was a day like today. I was out in my ex-girlfriend's garden, which was in Broxer, which overlooked the valley with the river down below, in her back garden, and I was gluing the shoes. And he said, your grandmother was with you this weekend, and you were overlooking a valley with a river at the bottom, and you were like, there's these shoes and they're really like vibrant and colorful and really different, and you were fixing them, and she was watching you do that, and she was proud of you not to take that you actually did that. And I was like, and I went through all my social media. I was like, there isn't one picture of me wearing these shoes, and they were kind of like orange with camouflage on them as well, so they were very different. And that was one kind of extraordinary example of that is too specific to kind of like just pull out the bag. And he was describing my grandmother, but then oh, she's kind of like, 5'2", and she's got curly hair, which she permed, which she then colours. And I was like, that's everyone that age, all these things. So I sat there going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then when he came out with that just kind of blew my mind.
Quite specific, that, isn't it?
Yeah. Is that
Yeah.
just from your knowledge and understanding? That this is where the question comes in. Is that kind of beyond what you would describe as what Darren Brown could basically do?
It's such a difficult one, isn't it? I mean,
Mm.
because equally, I don't ever want to discredit like your feelings, and I'm always aware of things like that too. But I guess without being there, if it was, say, recorded and you could listen to it back and hear for any prompts or anything that you might have given away, or then you could maybe have it analysed in a slightly different way. But again, that's not to take away from your experience of that, and it very well could be that is very legitimate, and if so, that's beautiful. But I think it's such an impossible question, isn't it, without having that, without either being there or having a way to analyze that's not just your memory.
Yeah.
That's like part of the whole system, like the thing we've been talking about. There's no way to put your finger on it. There's no way to say, yeah, that's true. No, that's not true. Can't dismiss it. It's just one of those things that is amazing. And if that gives to your beliefs, then absolutely fantastic.
And also, to a degree, I think, and I'm not saying this about you, James, but I think generally as a whole, if someone goes to a medium, whether or not they are genuine, if that really helps that person maybe get over a grief or helps them in their life, is it actually really bad?
Yeah.
I think there's two ways you can look at that, because it is, it could be seen as defrauding, people saying things and, to working off people's grief to make money and that kind of thing. And I don't think that's very fair.
No.
If someone were to do it for free, off their own back, then fair enough if they're helping people. But again, it's a murky sort of.
So a question for you, Ian. So if you say you were a person that had really just lost someone that they really needed in their life, and a loved one, and you were distraught, you didn't know what you couldn't imagine a life beyond this point.
See, I'm a different person to most people who you'd ask this to.
I'm just saying, imagine,
okay, right.
Imagine that.
Sorry, James, we'll be right back.
Might take a while. And so you felt like you were really distraught, and the only way you could get beyond that is to have some sort of closure that could be through a medium or something like that, of getting in touch with this person to get closure. Let's say that you did that, you sought this medium or some clairvoyant or help, and you found that closure in yourself. You believed that was true, whether or not you paid them, and if they were real or not, but they've helped you. Surely that's kind of helped you, hasn't it?
If your house was robbed and then a policeman came here, right, and they found the robber and they really helped you and they got your stuff back and they gave you closure and they said, this person's now locked up, and then they went, that'll be 300 quid, please. Would you be happy with that?
It's different though, because you'll never know.
What? You'd never know if the copper didn't come and help you.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Exchange medium for police person.
Yeah, but
Let's ask James. Throw it to James. Just enjoying watching it.
Apologies, everybody.
There has been some, I've actually, I am very skeptical of most mediums, and Pamela and our team, I think had genuine abilities, which is why she was on our team.
Would love to meet her.
And I've met some, some other people who, there's been three out of maybe 100 that I've met that I'm like, yeah, wow, that's something. So, but yeah, I think I know people that have gone and they pay, whether they're paying just for someone to counsel or they're paying for a medium to get some closure. I don't see anything wrong with that. But there have been things that have been exploitative. We know people that have even left things in their will to a medium who, most of the mediums I know have often do it for free anyway. So there's nothing really in it for them.
That's the kind of cool thing. I mean, if you're going to go and see someone and they're going to be like, yeah, of course I'll help you, 200 quid that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing about paying as well is most of the mediums, the three that I know, were like, well, I can't really charge. It's difficult to charge all the time because, you know, it doesn't always work. It's not something,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
which is interesting in itself, isn't it?
And if they've got
So
information from a dead person, they're trying to get to someone like tell Bill that the money's in the safe and it'll solve all his problems. Like I can't tell him because he's not got me 50 quid. He's not gonna pay me, so I
yeah,
ain't gonna pass on this information.
Yeah, it's true.
yeah,
Speaking
and
of mediums, sorry, have you heard of the skull experiment? I'd be very intrigued to hear your
I
input on it.
only from your show. That was the
Oh,
first
okay.
time I heard of it. Yeah,
Well, ignore that then. Let's move on.
it was amazing. I need to look more into that. I'm going to watch that documentary that
Oh,
it came
cool.
from
Yeah, I
that
need
you
to see
spoke
that.
about.
Super interesting.
But yeah, that was the actual EVPs that you posted on the show. That was really interesting because that was so direct. I've never heard many that clear and direct.
Yeah, that's
It
the thing
seems
about it.
almost
Like they said,
impossible.
they put it in a Faraday cage, took the inner workings of it out, and they were still getting voices through. And it wasn't like a pre-recorded script; they were just having a conversation. Super, super strange.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
we try
creepy.
and use the Estes method. So we have someone in one room and then we have someone in another room.
Yeah,
And then we have people noting down what the questions were and what time, and then have what the responses were to see if they measure up. And they never have so far, but
yeah, we
Ah,
tried that as well, didn't we? In my haunted bathroom, my parents' haunted
supposedly
toilet. Yeah.
nothing happened.
Nothing happened.
I was quite scared though, actually.
It's when you have one of your, well, both two of your senses taken from you, you're in a dark room that's supposed to be haunted. I think it's pretty terrifying. So
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
let you off, Jordan.
Thanks. No, I appreciate that.
my view on mediums as well, I don't think they're talking to the dead. I think they just somehow have some ability to access the infinite information.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
That is
We-
a very fun theory on it, like what the Akashic records.
The cassette records, yeah.
What's the name of that guy? His name escapes me now. Who
Dave,
is a bald guy, and
Bald
he
Dave.
Bald David on the Sundays.
Very formal. Yeah.
I can't. Oh, maybe move on from this, but
It's fine. It's fine.
it was
There's a bald guy.
yeah, it's a bald guy. I believe he's American, and he sort of channels through. I don't know if it's like a spirit guide.
Bashar.
Bashar. That's
Bashar.
it.
Yeah, have you seen that guy?
No.
He channels an alien,
Okay.
well, like a fourth dimensional being that comes through, and people will ask him questions. And they've done studies on his brainwaves that shows he does go into like a different like brain state of like different waves that shows he's asleep. So like it's like he's asleep and then this thing is channeling through him. And I do want to do like a proper episode, so I won't give too much away because then it'll just be, you know, 2 days plus Confessions of a Ghost Boy. Yeah, it's very interesting sort of guy.
Yeah, that's his name, Bashar. Thank you.
Bashar.
There was
I'll
a
go
guy. I never remember names, but there was a guy in the States who was a complete skeptic and he didn't even believe what he was doing, but he would meditate and basically go into a hypnotic state, and people come to him and he diagnosed them with medical conditions.
Right.
And hitting the nail on the head each time as well, like finding, you know, hidden cancers, for example, that they had no symptoms of and knew nothing about, so they weren't even giving things away kind of subconsciously.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. But like I said, even more interestingly, he's like, this can't be possible. This is, you know, there must be something to it, and could never explain it when he was in his non kind of hypnotic state.
Yeah.
So yeah, these things are there, and I think the way I see it is birds do it with there isn't bird school that says, you know, you can land on a cow and you're fine, but a cat will eat you, and that berry's okay and that berry isn't. They just seem to have this, whether it's through their DNA, or something. But I've had experiences where you know, the one example I use, which was fairly recent, it's about 2 years ago, I was stood on the street and I said to my girlfriend at the time, we need to go, something really bad's about to happen here. And we moved away from that spot and a car crash occurred about 5 minutes afterwards on that spot. So I think we all have it to some extent and tune in
Wow.
sometimes this knowledge and information.
What?
Once I said to my wife, you need to leave, something bad's going to happen around about here, and she didn't, and then all of a sudden I was down on one knee asking her to marry me, and she regrets it to this day. She's like, I should have just left. I had the keys in my
Had a
hand, I could've
warning.
done. Yeah, a warning. What the hell? So, sorry, you were going to say?
No, I was going to say exactly the same.
Exactly the same, sorry.
I was going to say to Jay, what was how do you sort of describe that? How do you think that came to you?
I just think that precognizant knowledge is sometimes ingrained, I think, in terms of predatory, things. We have feelings and there, but if we look at alternative universes and time, whether that exists, and maybe there was one guy, I think he's done I can't remember the book. I'm terrible with names and titles, but he wrote a book where he said that he's an English guy, and it's called Paying the Ferryman or something like that. And he said this song came on the radio, and he got obsessed with this song. He's like, I know this song, I need to know why it was. And through understanding and doing past life regression, he realized that this song came on the radio, and no, sorry, I'm saying it wrong. This is where I've already been to the pub, joined the poetry reading, had plenty to drink, and now I'm on the whiskey. Right, let's go back. So he basically, this song had really played a significant part in his life. He'd heard it and had this resonance that he couldn't understand. Why does this song have so much meaning to? And I think he even put it in his wedding because he felt that it was so strong and significant. But he couldn't understand why. And he was driving along one day, and the song came on the radio, and he felt danger and stopped. As he stopped, the truck in front of him, things fell off, and had he carried on, he would have been killed.
Right.
And then he did
Final
past life regression or something. Yeah. And found out that in a previous life, they're following the same things. And basically you learn and level up is his theory. And he thought that he had been hit by that truck. So he knew that was the moment of death. And so in his next life, to recognize that song as an alert for danger. So that's one idea.
Interesting that was at the wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could be totally making that up. But let me you discuss that, and I'll find out his name in his book.
Okay, it would be great if the song was like "Danger" by Bald Dave.
Danger high voltage. Watch out for cars. Watch out for vans.
I only know because I've got it on my list of my wish list of books I want to read. But yeah, the guy's absolutely fascinating. If you ever get an opportunity to listen to him talk, and he probably comes more prepared.
No, I mean, how do you explain that in any other way, though? It's very...
Cheating the Ferryman by Anthony Peake.
Oh, Anthony Peake, yeah. I know
him. Yeah. Fascinating
Wow.
ideas. He thinks it is a simulation and that you are here and learning and leveling up, which is similar to my belief, but I don't believe it's simulation. I just think we continually come back and learn in different lives and experience things.
Right. Yeah.
Which is why we have connections with certain people.
That's interesting.
As you were telling that story in the first place, I was thinking about another theory I heard recently where sort of things happen in a pond. So if you drop a pebble, everything will ripple out. So future events can ripple back. So if you get a sense of something like you being on that bridge with your girlfriend with where the crash was going to be, maybe you just felt the emotions that was happening through that. Maybe you were there, but then you felt the ripple, and you were like, oh, better move because something bad's going to happen. I can just feel it. It's like one of those.
It's weird, isn't it?
We get that with people as well, I think, and particularly creative people will meet someone and just be like, there's something off about this person, and then you find out, years later they beat up their girlfriend frequently or something like that. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, like a gut feeling, isn't there, that you just get about certain people, or you meet someone, or maybe it's the lack of not warming to somebody. I don't know, maybe it's not a kind of a repulsion, but you just don't warm to that person, maybe. My friend in Germany, he had a friend
and he just, although he was one of his best friends, he never trusted him. And then he did pass like, so he also met someone. He was married and he's in love with his wife, but then met someone else and was like, why have I got this deep connection with this woman? And he did a past life regression numerous times. And then he found out that this woman had been his wife many times over the years, or a partner. But then this one guy the one he didn't trust tried to get with his wife, which had then lasted with him. And then he said when he came in, he just saw me straight away and had a connection, and then felt safe. And then he said, I won't do the accent, but he saw me and I was a Viking berserker going into battle. And he just looked up at that moment and was like, I know we're safe because that guy's a lunatic and will just kill anyone. But I don't know if that's a compliment or not. He says, you are a warrior, James.
I love it.
It's bizarre. It's too many theories to think.
Yeah.
Could be any one of them.
That's the the beauty of this stuff is there's
absolutely
only hypothesis, isn't there? There's no kind of theories because you can never test it. You can't say,
yeah, that is true.
Well, let's go in a past life and see if that's the case.
Yeah.
And also that is, so I like I said, I would call myself an open-minded skeptic. But the absolute people that would really shut things down without taking any information in annoy me when it's sort of, well, prove it isn't. And like you can't prove or disprove like a negative thing really as such. And that annoys me.
Yes.
And like the opposite extreme.
Yeah.
And
it's more infuriating to people just be like, no, it's not real. It's not real. Prove it. And you're like,
yeah.
Oh, well, you win then. Well done.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wolf didn't eat my garden.
There's almost a safety, isn't there, in that kind of limited thinking. I've discussed kind of philosophical concepts with people before, where it's so kind of vast, they actually start to feel a little bit scared and nervous. So I think you have to be in a certain place to be able to go beyond that. Yeah.
Consider it.
What do you mean? Maybe in a sort of vulnerable state kind of thing, possibly?
More just, possibly. Like if you look at kind of existentialism and you know, even just looking beyond your finite level of life can be quite scary. So to look beyond that almost reminds people of that. But also, if you're maybe susceptible to feeling vulnerable to not feeling attached to reality anyway, then that can also be difficult and quite scary because you know what I do often is looking at things that betrays reality and concepts of reality beyond any rational idea, which is accepting that, which then, you know, takes you into realms beyond, you know, I'm stood on the ground even. Like the guy that came up with the concept of touching kind of atoms and we never actually touch anything was then scared to get out of bed the next day, the scientist, because he was scared he was going to fall through the floor.
Oh, right.
So it's that kind of idea of understanding the whiskey's kicked in again. Yeah, understanding the limitations of reality can sometimes, we need reality, and I think certain people need reality to enable them just to function with day-to-day life. But when we can go beyond that and philosophize, I think that is the greatest learning. So to dismiss it is not allowing different learning. So one concept that I have is ideas are limited, but thoughts are limitless. So we come up with a concept such as everything from communism, capitalism, you know, it reaches a certain point and you can't go beyond that. You know, like capitalism, I think, has reached a certain point now where there's no limitation in it. There is a limitation, sorry, in its evolution and evolving beyond what we have now, where things aren't starting to work. But when we look at things to do with the paranormal, there is no limit. You can only, not just paranormal, but high strangeness. There is an ability to think beyond any limits and take yourself into places that, you know, we are, by the very nature of being very attached to solid thoughts, and in both literal and a metaphorical sense, we limit ourselves by that solidity. But this allows us to think beyond that, and I think that's what's quite exciting. I don't know if that did that make any sense at all?
No, yeah, totally. Get
Yeah,
what you mean.
despite the whiskey, hey, that was
Moral
coherent.
So coming on to that, I know when you interviewed me, Ian, you said that it was similar. My kind of almost a grand unifying theory
Yeah,
of everything was similar to yours, but slightly different.
yeah.
So what's kind of I wanted to ask you then, but it didn't seem appropriate. What is your kind of ideas of the grand unified theory of all this?
Of all the paranormal and everything it encompasses.
Yeah, I know you said you were more into like the kind of UFO.
Yeah, I definitely fall more into like aliens and stuff like that. I love like extraterrestrials and all that sort of creepiness. Mainly because they scare the absolute hell out of me.
And so you must love to hate them.
Yeah, it's more of a morbid curiosity, I think. But what the theory that I've fallen more into the camp of is the fact that like I think like you and I sort of see eye to eye on the sort of thing, like they can feed off something that humans give off. And where I think it differs maybe is that I think I don't want to say I think, because I don't believe that this is the truth, but this is what more speaks to me, is the fact that it could be one entity that lives separately from us, like in another dimension. In the episode, I think it was episode 8, we spoke about it, and I kept saying the fourth dimension, but I didn't mean that. That was just a way for me to put like a term to it so that I could like reference it every time. But you know, it just lives on a different plane or a different dimension or something else, maybe parallel, whatever it is, and that will come to us and feed off of our fear or whatever it gives off, and it'll take from us what we give off, but in the form of scaring us. So like someone, like you said, if someone starts talking about a great big badger that haunts a place, people will then start seeing it, because then that's the thing that they're most likely to get a reaction out of. So this one entity can come to ours, our reality, change its shape to look like what scares us most, give us a little bit of fear, feed off it, and then off it pops back to its own land. You know, like, here, family, I found fear. And eat up, kids, and that kind of thing. So I mean, it annoys me because I can't put my finger on ghosts. So like, I mean,
No, they go straight through them, don't they?
Not these chunky buggers, mate. That's it. But like, I can't quite get the grasp of ghosts, and I think obviously with aliens, there has to be aliens as well. So I don't know if my theory says that these things also exist as well as things that mimic them, or if it's just one or the other. But that's where my mind falls most into the comfort zone of like, yeah, I think that's probably more likely.
Yeah, it's we know that, you know, there's I don't know if you read the latest book. So there was the Skinwalker Ranch book, and then Skinwalkers in the Pentagon. Have you read that one?
I haven't, no, not read that one.
But well, that one's talking a lot about how these people would go and investigate Skinwalker Ranch and be ufologists, for example, and then poltergeist activity would then occur. So they'd have an experience on the ranch, they'd come home, poltergeist activity would occur, they'd ring someone, and then poltergeist activity would occur at their home, almost as if it's like a viral infection.
Yeah.
And there seems to be this, you know, I've had a lot of poltergeist activity and I've seen three UFOs, you know, there seems to be this consciousness link between them, you know. And the whole, it was I've definitely had an idea of things feeding off you, or whether that's fear or anything else. And then Monsters Inc. came out, which is exactly that, isn't it? It's exactly that thing of people from another dimension coming into your dimension, spreading fear, and then that generating the electricity for the monsters world.
Like the drip feeding us the information through.
Yeah, and there was an abominable snowman in that as well.
There is an abominable snowman.
Is that? I don't think I've
such
seen
a happy
the film.
guy as well. Yeah, love that guy.
Wow.
Yeah, they're there. Hollywood is controlling us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we said it.
Yeah, they are behind you now, making you move.
Hope not to do that, guy.
Did you ever come up with hang on, I've got two thoughts. This is my ADHD with the whiskey kicking in, where I'm about. I did one sentence and then kicked it with another thought straight away. Yeah, let's do the first one. So did you ever come up with an explanation? So when you interviewed me, there was a massive bang behind you.
Mm.
I looked into it again and couldn't find a thing. I asked my parents to come in. They had a look because we were in their dining room for anyone that doesn't know. But we had a look and they said, no, nothing's out of place. And I can't listen to that episode anymore because it freaks me out.
Yeah,
Really? Okay,
It was-
I thought you'd been serious.
it was
scared me,
loud.
mate. I'm hardened.
It was very loud.
Yeah.
And James, you were kind of facing
Yeah.
where it seemed like it was coming from as well.
Yeah,
And-
nothing moved. There was no
Yeah,
movement.
nothing in my
whatsoever.
peripheral either.
Yeah, yeah, fascinating. And 3 people just this month have got in touch saying they've either watched one of my videos or listened to one of my podcasts, and then something's flown off the shelf.
Really?
Wow.
So,
So
it is
what you're
that.
saying is we need to cut off ties with you.
I don't know if it's me or if it are they tuning into something and their
It's like a
consciousness is
shoe
then
pal.
interacting.
I'm gonna say you.
My girlfriend started having stuff happening to us, and she started going out with me.
Okay, well that's a confirm.
Right,
That's a
okay.
confirmation. then.
It's yeah.
What does
I
your
don't know.
girlfriend make of it all? Is she skeptical or is she quite open?
She kind of we kind of found each other because she was interested in this and saw my videos and through a mutual
Right.
friend anyway. So and then we actually met kind of almost by chance through a mutual friend and hit it off. But yeah, she's had stuff like water kind of dripping on her from nowhere. There's like
Ooh.
she's suddenly wet.
Yeah, which,
That's not my effect. And
I wasn't gonna say anything.
this morning, in fact, she had her hair clips, which she'd done her hair last night. She put them, pulled the clips out of her hair, put them on the table downstairs, and then this morning she was sat at her at a mirror and felt something against her foot, and something had thrown her hair clips at her foot. I went on a date with someone, and I think I don't know if I said it in your interview that
Your girlfriend didn't mind, no?
no, well, she's all right. She finds it interesting, so she's not
Okay,
freaked.
fair
She's
enough.
not freaked out.
I mean,
Whereas,
you're going on a date.
oh no, no, this was
No, she
before
loves
then.
it. She loves it.
Yeah, and someone else I went on a couple of dates with, like I went in their house and immediately stuff started happening. It was a new build house, and even when I
Oh,
left,
right.
then she went to her mum's house and that started occurring. So, yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know what,
Yeah, I
why,
wouldn't say it's
how.
the podcast. I think it's more you.
I would
Right.
love to get you and your team into the house that I live in now because I said this on a bonus episode the other day. So everyone out there who hasn't listened to that, they're getting a little bit of freebie here. But I heard a weird noise in my son's room the other day. Do you mind if I quickly tell the story?
Go for it.
Oh, thank you. So I was in bed. I was waking up in the morning, and I was going to get my son out of bed. So I dropped into his bedroom because he's got a little Alexa device. So just as I was getting dressed, I thought I'd, get him ready. So shouted through the Alexa device. I was like, right, time to get up, pal. Come on. Didn't get a word back. I said, right, come on, buddy. Really need to get out of bed now. Let's go get some breakfast. Didn't get a word back, and I thought he's not listening to me. He's just, he must be hiding because he loves to hide, and then jump out at you. And then I heard 2 sneezes come from his bedroom. Now, on my house, there's the living room at the bottom, our bedroom on the 2nd floor, and his bedroom on the top floor. So I heard 2 distinct sneezes. I was like, he's only 5. So I thought, he thinks he's being crafty. So I thought, right, I'll go upstairs. So I went into my hallway. I shouted up to him. I was like, right, dude, come on, downstairs now, please. Let's get ready for school. And he shouted from downstairs. He's like, you what? And I was like, what? Like, where are you? And he's like, I'm downstairs. So I was like, who's in your bedroom then? And there was no one up there. And there was only my youngest, who was 2, me and the one that I was trying to get in contact with. So I definitely think there's something in our house, because that's not the first time I've heard something creepy. So if you wouldn't mind bringing your skeptic pal, your psychic pal, leave the skeptic at home. Don't need them. Get the psychic and just come around and do a little exorcism, if you wouldn't mind.
What did the sneezes sound like?
When you sneeze and you stifle it.
Mm.
Well, can you tell what kind of
So more like
it
a-
is by the sneeze? So it's kind of like like when you like that kind of thing. Sorry for my terrible impression. Please don't put that in. But yeah, that kind of thing. It's like a really sort of like heavy sneeze. It's like, ugh, you know.
So there's a deep guttural kind of sound with
Oh
it
yeah,
then.
yeah,
Right, okay.
absolutely. And
So I
it
was about
came.
to, yeah, I was about to say like could be quite easy explained, but
I know it's definitely like an adult sneezing, and like
right.
when you hold your nose and you get that weird noise. That's a third attempt I've tried to do.
Just
Hopefully-
compile all these one after another.
Okay. A ghost with hay fever.
Yeah,
It could well be. Yeah.
terrible at hiding.
And also, so Ian's mentioned this on the podcast before, but it picked up an EVP in your hallway
Yes, I hate that
as
noise.
well. There's like I don't know how you'd even describe it.
Sounds like a woman going.
Yeah, it really is. It's like kind of thing. And then a few days ago from here, as we record now, Ian put up a video on our TikTok account where he was trying various drinks with apple juice, as you do, and there's a bit of a weird sound in one of those as well.
There is, yeah, I completely forgot about that. If you watch it, there's a bit where I say like, "Well, that was delicious," and I put the glass down. But then as I put the glass down, I instantly then move to my right. But there's a weird noise in. It sounds like it's coming from my living room under that noise. So
Right.
just EVPs coming out my ears, mate.
Have you
like-
tried an actual EVP session?
No, I refuse to dabble because I am not allowing it into my life.
Right.
I'm far too clever for that.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll let other people do that. You can do that, mate.
Well, I was about to say my next question is, can I come and do an EVP session?
Please do. That'd be lovely. Just don't involve me. Let it know that I have no no stakes in it at all. It's your own volition. And
Yeah.
come on over.
unfortunately, your wife's really sort of against. Because I've suggested to Ian before, it'd be great, if you had some like a camera in your hallway
In
or
your
something.
bedroom.
and in your bedroom. And but Ian's wife's really kind of like, no,
Yeah,
don't
you don't
want
wanna know.
don't want to know if anything comes
Yeah.
up.
Ignorance is bliss, but we won't tell her. Come around while she's at work. You actually live round the corner from me, so just pop around whenever you want, mate.
Yeah, Matt, who is part of the Confessions of the Ghost Boy crew, he's when he goes in, he has to remove the batteries from his like
All
EVP,
his equipment, yeah.
all his equipment, everything. Yeah, so yeah, his girlfriend's like that as well. It's yeah, it's good fun. We need to get her out on a hunt one night though.
We should do that like Wives of the Paranormal, so it's get them all together. That'd be a new series.
Just shivering in the corner.
Yeah, can we go home yet? There's a
It's
ghost.
frustrating with what I do because as you know, when someone's having a problem with poltergeist in the house,
Mhm.
that's the stuff that most of the time stuff happens, but it's the stuff that we don't film because we don't want to be exploitative.
Of course.
So it's frustrating. It's really frustrating, but no, I absolutely love it because it just most, like I said, most of the time I come up with a logical, rational explanation. But sometimes there is just we've been in a house where stuff's just levitating in front of your eyes, and you're like, okay, what is that?
So in your mind, are you absolutely 100% adamant sure that there is something else that exists?
Most of the time when I go somewhere, because most of the time it is the case, I'm like, right, let's what's going to go on here, and how are we going to debunk it and try and find that rational explanation. And I'm really wedded to that idea because I want to debunk it, because when we do find something that's exceptional, then there is no, we can get in the biggest skeptic on earth and say, this is what we've done, this is what we've ruled out, this is what, and they won't go, oh, okay, you just someone who believes in you have that
You want to
preconceived
believe kind
idea.
of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and even like my team, we've had various members over the years have been like really frustrated with me before we've even gone and gone, I feel it's this, and I'm like, well, no, we're not even been there yet. It could just be someone who's got serious mental health issues, or a cat could have knocked something off the shelf or anything like this.
Yeah.
But then sometimes we go and it is just off the charts. There's stuff, and I've even picked stuff up, looked at it, there's no strings, there's nothing there. I also aware that there are people that want attention, whether that's for mental health issues or to mock you, to kind of play tricks on you. So I always try and debunk everything if I can. But yeah, sometimes there's just things that you just can't explain at all.
Yeah.
That are beyond the realms of any formal reality that we know.
Mm.
You know, where even where you've been hurt, where someone scratches you or touches you and there's no one else around to, as I say, things levitating and being thrown
Hmm.
in front of your eyes.
I'd love to see
It's,
something like that.
Would
yeah.
you though?
I'd love to witness somebody else see something like that.
Right. When do you get home tonight?
Yeah. I'll put my
Your
wife in
cocktail
it.
mixer just spinning.
That's fine. If it wants to make me a drink, that's absolutely fine.
It's this area itself though has a lot of both UFO and paranormal activity. Why do you guys think that is?
Oh, I couldn't tell you why at all. No, not a clue.
And if Ian can't, I definitely can.
I've heard of, I mean, like, I've read one of Paul Sinclair's books. You've interviewed him. I've heard a lot of podcasts where he's been interviewed and heard a lot of his stories, and it's all very interesting. It does seem to be a hotspot, and I have no idea why. I mean, he talks a lot about that military installation. I think that's probably one of the things that I would maybe disagree on him with, because it doesn't really seem like it's a very secretive place, if that makes sense. You know, the Air Force base is up in sort of Filey, Speed, and that sort of area. I don't think the military connection alone is enough to say that it's reason for paranormal activity to follow, because I know it does sort of follow the military, or it can follow the military the aspect of things, but I don't think that place is enough. So I don't think that's the cause of it. But I honestly couldn't tell you if you asked me what it actually is. Do you have an answer for me? Or
No, it's ancient, isn't it? You know, this area, and
Yeah.
it's always been wedded to folklore and all those type of things. As to the UFO aspect, I'm not quite sure. I mean, we have almost got a triangle of RAF bases, whether that's something to do with it. They're monitoring the skies, and whether the skies are then monitoring them in return. You know, like I said, in terms of paranormal stuff, your consciousness is interacting. If you accept that, then they can continue to interact. So I don't know whether it's something like that. I mean, I always find it interesting where I kind of made a joke. I was going on what we call the Wald Newton Triangle, and I said, "Oh, it's it's famous for UFOs." And I was joking to people, "I wonder if I'll see a UFO." And while I'm driving along, I listen to a podcast, which just by chance we're talking about UFOs that day, and so end up seeing a UFO. So whether it is linked to that consciousness, and if you've got certain people that believe, then more people then believe and start consciously thinking about it, which then creates the activity. Who knows? I did do I did do an experiment. I don't know if you saw with the whole Broxer werewolf. Did you see
is
that
this
video?
what you told me about, where you went and did the meditation?
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw it after you told me about it.
I was.
Please tell Jordan though, because I don't think he knows.
No, I'm not familiar.
So I I'm quite well known and famous for not being scared of poltergeist activity. Like someone screams and everyone's running the opposite way, I'm running towards the scream and seeing what it is. But this genuinely scared me. I was I thought it'd be really funny and make a good video and be a bit daft to go into the woods on Broxham Moor, where this interdimensional werewolf is allegedly seen, and meditate like they're at Skinwalker Ranch. And we know the whiskey's really kicking in. I'm on probably about my 8th shot now.
Wow.
So we know it's at Skinwalker Ranch that there was like people meditating, stuff happened. So there was a case of a guy, as you're probably aware, where the original rancher was there. A hippie turned up and said, "Can I meditate?" And he's like, "If you want." And then he went in the middle of the field, started meditating, and then the rancher saw like something that was translucent, so invisible, but could see some form moving. He described it as being like the Predator film that came up and basically, while this guy was meditating, screamed in front of him.
Yeah.
The guy was so upset. I've forgotten his name. What's the name of the ranchers that own the Skinwalker Ranch? Originally,
I spoke about it a couple of weeks ago.
Anyway, it was those guys.
I'll look it up while you carry on. I'll fill you in a second.
He basically said he almost punched this guy because he was like, "You need to get off me now," because he was clinging onto him and so scared. And meditation seemingly stirs stuff up in these places. So I thought I'll go to the woods and I'll meditate and see what happens. And immediately, within maybe 30, 40 seconds of meditating, there was two bangs that was like gunshots. And I was like,
Sherman.
the Shermans, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, gunshots that I was like, well, I'm in the forest. It could be gunshots. But it was night, it was just on dusk. The forest was pitch black and there should have been some lights. If someone was shooting, like you'd think there'd be lamping. But still, you know, it's the forest, sounds travel. So I was like, although it was really loud, it could be two gunshots. But then immediately after the two really loud ones, there was like 15 to 20 pop, 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 like quieter shots
Wow.
all around. And I was like, well, there isn't 15 people shooting guns or someone with a machine gun. So, and also when I start meditating immediately, like it was still, it was like today, it's a beautiful summer's day. And wind just started shaking the trees from where I was. Then my dog's had trauma. She's a rescue dog. She never leaves my side. She disappeared, which is really not like, she's almost glued to my feet whenever we're out.
Oh,
So yeah, and I was just really genuinely scared. I felt like prey. Like I felt like I was being stalked.
Yeah.
That's the only way to describe it. Like, and it's not a big headed thing. I don't get scared easily. You know, I've worked on doors. I've been, you know, as you know, stayed on my own with the allegedly most violent poltergeist. This isn't, but I was terrified to the point I even lost where I was and couldn't find my way out of this forest.
wow.
Um,
So could
so
I ask, what is it specifically that you thought or you found was the most terrifying out of that then?
well, it was
was
just
it-
Compared to the other things you have experienced?
Was it just fear like was being like pushed on you? Like
yeah. Well,
like,
I could deal with poltergeists. I know that as long as I do what I do, I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be protected. It's all about consent, and
Right.
it's this kind of interactional thing. You know, whenever I go anywhere, even if they say that they've got this really malevolent activity going on, and I can go in that environment and be safe when if I do what I practice. But this, I had no control. I felt like
Right.
so inferior and so insignificant that I was just like, you know, a rabbit to a fox or something. You know, like I was just prey, and I just wanted to get out of there as quickly as possible. And I couldn't. I went off the path to meditate as well. I went to an area that was totally off the path in the middle of Broxton Moor, where there was like no paths nearby, and that's like, okay, I feel something here. I'm going to try and meditate. And I think I was expecting nothing. I think I just thought it'd be really funny, if I'm honest, and learn a lesson. And the
What
only
about-
reason I kind of got out is that there was the sunset, the last bit of sunset through the trees. So I was like, that's east. So I need to put it that way.
Right.
you were
and-
about 3 footsteps from becoming a missing 411 statistic.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's yeah, that was interesting. Paul rang me actually, and we had a chat. We're talking about going over and maybe replicating it again, and
Wow.
seeing what happens. But
Nice.
I definitely wouldn't do that again on my own.
Really?
It was yeah, it was really strange, really strange.
go
I
with
can't.
Yeah, I'll go now. Yeah.
It was good fun, but yeah, I wouldn't do it again on my own.
Yeah. Which seems a lot based on the experiences you've had and living in homes, you know, with poltergeist activity, which I think you do now as well, don't you?
Yeah, nothing's happened so far. The most interesting thing, and again, it breaks my belief system because, as you know, I don't believe it's something to do with the dead. But my friend passed away, one of my closest friends, last December, and I've got a picture of him on my mantelpiece. And I went out, and no one else was in the house. And when I came back, it had moved from obviously facing that way out to like a 90-degree angle. And then there's like 3 black finger marks, like as if someone's pressed the finger marks down like that on top of the white mantelpiece.
Oh,
So that's an interesting one.
that is weird.
Yeah.
So do you, it's not to get too deep into it, do you think that's a sign from him?
Who knows?
Or-
Could it
right,
be?
okay.
Or is it
Yeah.
something pretending to be? And then this is what I always say,
Right,
isn't it? We're
yeah.
going back to what I was talking to you about in the interview I did with you, is never trust what it is, because it could be anything that is giving
Totally.
that information.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you've been with me for about an hour and a half, so I don't want to take up all your time. Let's ask a few more fun questions. Would
Okay.
you, if you could, stay in a haunted house overnight for a week,
Absolutely.
For a week.
Yeah, absolutely.
knowing that stuff was definitely going to occur?
Yeah, I would love to see it because then it would give me a bit more definitive proof in my mind, and I could come away being like a little bit more like, yeah, something definitely exists, you know. Because at the moment I'm like, does it? Doesn't it? Who knows? I've never seen it really with my own eyes. Everything, like you say, something happens, it could be explainable, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I think I'd do it if I was with you,
Okay, that's fine.
and that's fair,
It's
isn't
quite
it?
hot, but
Yeah. And you know, I can cuddle up to you when I'm scared. I'm scared,
What-
Ian.
So if you went in that haunted house and stuff occurred that was definitively no rational, logical explanation, how would it change your worldview?
for me, I think it'd probably just it raise more questions because I'd be like, okay, well now I know something is definitely existing, you know, but what is it now? Now I really need to start thinking like, what could it be? So it just probably made me double down really. I just start even like, you know, doing more research, trying to look a little bit more deeper into it, rather than just being like, oh, this is fun. I think I'll do a bit of research. But yeah.
Would it make you more interested in working out more what's going on in your own home?
I've got James for that. He's gonna come and sort that out for me. So that's fine. We'll leave that to one side. I don't want to get in a bit more, you know, powerful or anything like that. Too big for its paranormal boots.
That's the one. Yeah.
What about you though? What would you do?
I see. I don't know. I think it would have to change my kind of worldly perspective. It'd be naive of me to think that it wouldn't. But in what way? I don't know. I guess I wouldn't know until it happened if it did. No.
What is your favorite cryptid and why?
I would have to say I love the Kentucky Goblins.
Oh, the Ting Ting.
The Ting Ting Runaways. Yeah, because they were thought to be aliens, then they thought to be goblins, then aliens, then just some kind of creature. And then I don't know if you've seen what's it called, Hellier? Have you seen Hellier?
Yes, yeah,
Yes,
fascinating.
there's a whole massive crazy conspiracy, you know, like a massive backstory, even bigger than anyone even thought in the first place. It's such a bizarre story and an ever evolving one. And I've got a tattoo of one of them on me as well, just here.
Oh yeah.
Ah, yeah.
So yeah, I think I would have to say at a push. I mean, I love Bigfoot, you know, the classics, but I'd have to say probably a Kentucky Goblin.
Yeah, I like that one. Oh, I don't know. See, I'm not great with cryptids. I would have probably said Bigfoot, but if not, maybe the squonk.
The squonk, good old squonk.
Was that the water dwelling?
Yeah, the one that cries and cries itself to death.
Yes,
because it's so ugly.
because you know, I feel like it's a connection within me.
We're fighting back the tears really well.
I am, yeah.
So my next question is who would win between a squonk and a goblin?
Oh, Goblin all the way.
Yeah, it has to be, doesn't it?
I think the squonk would become the water that the towel is drenched in. The goblin gets to brush its brow after the fight. Cheers, Squonky. Nice fight. Bring on the next one.
I think you're
I'll
totally
drink
right.
it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
I think so.
Or the squonk could be really tearful, and then the goblin be like, "Oh, pal,"
Feel
and
bad
then the
for it.
squonk gives it one, and then it wins.
I guess we're gonna have to put it to the test now.
I don't know how.
Have you got a squonk? So I've got a goblin.
We have loads of goblins in this area, don't we? Boggles and Hobbs and there's Hobhole and Bogglehole.
I was gonna make a horrible bad joke about my wife, but yeah.
I knew that was where that was going to go going. I knew it, and I wasn't going to say anything.
She's gonna kill me.
And I know people that have even seen him. Like I've interviewed.
Oh, really?
They won't come on record, but
Right.
they'll talk anonymously about what a lady in Pickering said that she heard a rustling, looked behind a sofa, saw a little person, then was like turned around and was like, "Hang on a minute, am I going mad?" Turned back and then it was gone.
Wow.
I just saw him.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear some of these stories because I mean, like the Fae and stuff like that, and
Mm.
all that sort of things that's encompassed in it. I've never really looked into it. It's I've had my eyes opened a lot in the last sort of 5 years about it, and I've always just kind of thought fairies,
I've dismissed it as well.
yeah, just
Yeah.
you think fairies, little things in your garden but then there's such a deeper lore to it
Yeah.
that I never even realized, and I'm getting so much more interested in it that I'd love to actually sit and hear some stories about this kind of thing from actual people who've seen it because it's a lot deeper, I think, than just like, oh, I saw a little fairy floating around on a planet. It was lovely. I think they are a bit more creepier than once let on.
You
Yeah.
you
And
covered the face sensors, didn't you, on your show?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
Did a couple of stories from that. I focused solely on the Yorkshire because I didn't know where to start. So I thought I'll just focus on the Yorkshire bit.
Yeah. You were going to say something, Jordan. I read
No, no, it was
instructed
just
you.
that with like your example there of like the just out in your back garden or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's probably that everybody thinks of that makes people, if they have had these experiences, think, I'm not going to bother, because that kind of innate
Yeah.
ridicule, I guess, of
I think that sits in a lot of
Yeah,
examples,
yeah.
though. Like people think that there's so many publicized media versions of all of these things, like aliens. You just if you say that to any random person, they'll just say, "Oh, creature from another planet," when it could be a vast multitude of other things. So if anyone has an experience that is outside of that paradigm that people are used to, you're just going to say, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to talk about it because what's the point? I'm just going to get ridiculed. People are just going to think I'm stupid. And that's it. It just gets pushed to the back burner. But a lot of people probably have these experiences that they could talk about and bring it to the forefront, but they won't.
It's a recent phenomenon, though, because we know it was, not that long ago in this area that people genuinely believed in this type of thing. And look at Bogger Hole, where if your child had a whooping cough, you would take your, go the women only, because men were scared to even go to that area, would go down, leave a gift, say the rhyme, and their children allegedly, whether it's placebo or not, would be cured of whooping cough, which was a killer at that time as well.
Yeah.
We also know like families who, is it Russup? There was a story of a hob who they would leave cream out every night and it would do chores. And then one night the wife died. He got remarried and she left it just milk, not cream, and everything started going wrong to the point they actually left the farm and relocated. But funny enough, the hob joined them and heard them say, "I'm coming with you," was sat on the cart as they went off to their other place, hopefully to get cream again.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It'd be good, wouldn't you? If you go to a
Yeah.
new place, like, right, start anew, and you see this, hee come from your hay, and you're like, oh man, spent all this money on a new house.
Yeah. I wonder if it's a particular type of cream that they like as well. Single
Like
or double.
yeah. Heavy cream, half and
Clotted.
half, clotted, yeah. Devonshire's own, God knows. Too many.
It's a magical place, this area, and the poltergeist obviously aligns with that belief in the Fae until recent. When I say recently, Victorian times, it became the dead. All those things and the stories from this area.
Yeah. Quite rich, really.
Yeah, that's why I love exploring it and bringing it to you.
Yeah, and you do. Credit to you.
We're gonna have you guys on an experience one night.
I'd love that.
We were gonna go to that pub, but both myself and Matt have got ADHD, and we both fill our lives with a ridiculous amount of activity, and then never get anything organised. But we're definitely gonna make that happen, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
That'd be lovely.
Probably at Ian's house.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, that's fine. We'll keep my wife out because she wasn't okay at all.
You just stay here.
Yeah. Can I request that we do something for our 100th episode? Because then it'd be a massive, fantastic cross collaboration of video, and audio, paranormality in a big, spooky, sweet triangle coming together.
Yeah, definitely.
That also is not a triangle, Ian.
Shut up. There's two triangles. It represents the two different.
Oh, really?
podcasts.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mean the diamond?
The sky.
Let's go to is it the Ramsgate Inn? What's that really old down in Gloucester?
If there's ghosts and aliens there, let's go.
I think it's the Rams Inn or something.
Is it the Ram's Head? I don't know.
Ram's Head, that's the one. Allegedly one of the most haunted places in the world.
Yeah, I've never been. Yeah.
That would be good fun.
And we also want to do the
The
East
pub in
Drive.
York.
yes,
Oh, East Drive.
Yeah.
Yes.
In Pontefract.
that's the one. The Pontefract monk.
Yeah.
Really. Want to see if you'll do me his portrait with his artistic skills.
Because you went as well, weren't you?
So someone told me that they lived in Pontefract and they actually moved house. They weren't at East Drive, but they moved house because the dad walked into the bathroom and there was what he described as a little demon was sat there.
Let's describe that.
It was just
Yeah.
a child. Oh,
Just
there's a
really naughty
demon in
kid.
the bathroom.
But this is what I love when they move house because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's significant enough to
Yeah.
warrant that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not a small feat, is it, moving house?
No.
I mean, you've got massive feet.
I do, and I still can't move house.
Right. Well, I'm going to leave it there. We're going to be linking up a lot in the future, I imagine. And
Yeah,
I hope
um,
so. Thank
I'm
you.
really excited. We should try and see how much the Rams Inn is and get down there for a crazy night of madness.
Yes.
Yeah,
Let's see what
absolutely.
happens.
I'd be down for that, definitely.
But thank you so much for joining us. And
Thanks for having us, mate.
Yeah, absolutely.
go. Where can
Pleasure.
everyone find your podcast?
On me. If you just look up Two Guys What's Up, if you look on Apple, Spotify, we also release on YouTube, so you can watch the video, not actual video, but we release on there. So just Google Two Guys What's Up, and it will come up. And we have a Linktree link, which is everywhere that we are, and you can click on there, so you can talk to us, listen to us, find us. All forms of media where we are, they're all there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter.
That's the one. And also we have a Patreon, if you don't mind us saying so as well, where we put up monthly bonus episodes for £3 a month, which is
Bargain.
nothing.
Our game.
That is a Costa coffee. That's it.
It
But
is.
go one of those, make one at home, sit and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Anyway.
Thank you, guys.
No, thank you
Thanks
very much
you.
for having
Yeah,
us.
cheers
It's
for
been
having
a
us,
real
mate. It's been
pleasure. Thank
lovely.
you.
I can't wait to go to some spooky houses in the future.
Yeah, I'm
We can do
scared
it.
though.
We can do
Let's
it.
do it.